The first time anyone heard the knocking, they blamed the wind. It was a lonely lighthouse standing on a jagged island far from the mainland, surrounded by black cliffs and restless waves. Every evening, as the last rays of sunlight disappeared beneath the horizon, 3 slow knocks echoed through the heavy wooden door. Knock, knock, knock. The strange part wasn't the sound. It was what happened next. No matter who gathered the courage to open the door, no one was ever there. Only the cold sea breeze, the endless darkness, and the crashing waves below. For decades, people ignored the mystery. Sailors whispered about it. Fishermen refused to sail too close after sunset. Locals claimed the lighthouse was haunted by someone who had never found peace. Others laughed, saying it was only an old story meant to frighten children. But one man decided he wanted the truth. His name was Daniel Harper, a historian who spent years investigating forgotten places and unexplained legends. Unlike ghost hunters searching for fame, Daniel wanted facts. He believed every mystery had a logical explanation. When he arrived on the island, the lighthouse stood exactly as the old photograph showed, weathered. Stone walls, rusted iron railings, and a lantern room overlooking an endless grey ocean. The building felt abandoned, yet strangely alive, as though it had been waiting for someone to return. The old caretaker handed Daniel a single iron key. "I've looked after this place for 30 years, the old man said quietly. "I've never stayed after dark." Daniel smiled politely. "You've never been curious." "I was. Once." "What happened?" The caretaker stared toward the lighthouse. "I answered the knocking." Before Daniel could ask another question, the old man climbed into his boat and disappeared into the mist. That evening, Daniel unpacked his camera. Notebooks, flashlights, and audio recorders. Everything was ready. At exactly 11:47 p.m. Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed through the stone walls. Daniel immediately checked every window. Nothing. No boats. No footprints. No voices. Only silence. His heartbeat quickened. Slowly, he unlocked the heavy wooden door. Outside stood only darkness. The cold wind brushed past him like invisible fingers. No one. He searched around the lighthouse with his flashlight. Nothing. When he stepped back inside and closed the door, another sound froze him where he stood. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Above him. The lighthouse had 6 floors. Daniel looked toward the spiral staircase. Someone was walking down. One step. Then another. Then another. His flashlight shook in his hand. He called out, "Who's there?" No answer. The footsteps stopped halfway. Silence returned. Daniel forced himself upstairs. Floor after floor. Every room was empty. The lantern room at the top contained only dusty machinery and cracked windows overlooking the sea. No person. No animal. Nothing. He convinced himself it had been old wooden beams shifting in the wind. Still, something felt wrong. The next morning Daniel searched through forgotten journals stored inside the lighthouse. One entry caught his attention. October 14th, 1923. The knocking returned tonight. I refused to answer. Thomas answered instead. We never saw him again. Daniel frowned. Another journal. 3 knocks again. Never answer after midnight. Another. The lighthouse chooses who hears the knocking. Every keeper had written almost the same warning. Daniel refused to believe it. Stories grow over time. People exaggerate. There had to be another explanation. That evening he installed more cameras around the entrance. If someone was playing tricks, he'd finally have proof. Midnight arrived. The sea became strangely calm. Even the wind disappeared. Then, knock, knock, knock. This time the sound seemed louder, almost impatient. Daniel watched every camera monitor. Nothing appeared outside. No movement. No figure. Yet the knocking continued. His curiosity defeated his fear. He opened the door instantly. Again. No one. But this time he noticed something impossible. Wet footprints. Not leading toward the lighthouse. Leading away from it. As though someone had already entered before he opened the door. Daniel followed the footprints back inside. They crossed the stone floor, circled the staircase, then simply vanished. No exit. No hidden door. Nothing. That night he couldn't sleep. At around 3 in the morning, he heard whispering. Not from outside. Inside the walls. Soft voices speaking words he couldn't understand. The whispers grew louder until they sounded almost like desperate cries. Daniel placed his ear against the stone. For a brief second, he heard one sentence clearly. Don't answer tomorrow. The next morning he replayed every recording. The cameras showed something terrifying. At exactly 11:47 p.m., just before the knocking began, every camera glitched for exactly 3 seconds. When the picture returned, the lighthouse door was already slightly open. Daniel was certain he had locked it. He examined the footage frame by frame. Standing just beyond the doorway was a shadow shaped like a man. It disappeared before the next frame. His hands trembled. For the first time, Daniel considered leaving. But the mystery had become personal. Who, or what, was knocking every night? The island's oldest resident agreed to speak with him before sunset. She was nearly 90 years old. My grandfather kept that lighthouse, she whispered. He once told me the sea never forgets. Daniel asked what she meant. She looked toward the ocean. Long ago, a rescue boat left during a violent storm. 6 sailors never returned. Every night since then, someone comes home. Daniel felt a chill. Who? She shook her head. No one knows. That night the atmosphere changed completely. Dark clouds swallowed the moon. Rain crashed against the windows. Lightning illuminated the sea. At exactly 11:47. Knock. 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 This time the knocks were followed by a voice. Barely audible. Open. Daniel's breathing became faster. He knew every warning, every journal, every story. Yet curiosity pulled him forward. His hand reached for the handle. The door slowly creaked open. Standing on the cliff was a tall figure wearing an old lighthouse keeper's coat. Its face remained hidden beneath the rain. Water dripped endlessly from its clothes. It never moved, never blinked, never spoke again. Daniel whispered, "Who are you?" The figure slowly raised one hand, pointing toward the sea. Daniel turned his flashlight toward the waves. Floating below the cliffs were 6 faint lights, like lanterns drifting across the black water. Then he heard voices, dozens of them, calling his name, one by one, softly, patiently, as though they had been waiting for years. Daniel looked back toward the doorway. The figure was gone. Only wet footprints remained, leading inside the lighthouse, toward the spiral staircase. He followed them without thinking. Up one floor, then another, then another. The footprints ended beneath the lantern room. There, carved into the wooden floor, were words hidden beneath decades of dust. The last keeper never left. Daniel looked up. If you've enjoyed this chilling mystery and want more haunted lighthouses, forgotten places, and terrifying legends, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You never know which forgotten story we'll uncover next.